Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Mr. Fix-It channel. Working on the GS Suzuki again, and I'm going to start getting into some of this wiring. Stay tuned.
I was sitting out there in the shed one evening, not doing too much of nothing, just kind of staring at the wall.
So I got the kill switch, the start button, the horn, the turn signals, all this stuff, the gauges, everything needs to be hooked up to this bike. So currently none of this is connected. I got an ignition switch, everything has to be wired up. So I'm going to get into this. I'm going to take this fairing off and start figuring out what wire goes where. Of course, none of these colors are going to match up to each other. So a wiring diagram is going to be key here. Now, I understand this is not going to be interesting to probably 99% of you guys, but this part has to be done. I'm going to try to not make this so boring. So bear with me through this process, get this part done. First thing I gotta do is pull this fairing off. So let's get into that. I might take the top triple clamp loose to get that in there. So there's a tab on the frame here. That's for the steering stop lock thing deal. I'll have to cut that off because this isn't going to fit in there. Now this has a steering lock in it. If you turn the key, that pops out and locks. I like to utilize that. I might have to see what I can do about making that happen. But I think I'm going to have to take the original tab off the frame to get this to work on this bike. Yeah, I'm going to have to cut that off. So I'm going to go ahead and take the handlebars and the top triple clamp off, and let me cut this tab off. This is what I need to cut off right here. I also need to finish welding this on. It's just tacked. So let me get this cut off of here and we'll go from there. It's not the same switch. I'll be damned. Well, this came off of my ZX6D Ninja. This is a ZX6E Ninja, and unfortunately the ignition switch is not the same, so I cannot install this switch onto this. Well, I got two options here. I can either buy the switch for these bars or put the ZX6D handlebars on this bike. Those are my two options. So this goes to the D Ninja. Unfortunately, this bearing stem won't fit through this hole. So I can try to drill this out. I don't think I have a drill bit that big. What can I do here? All right, let me figure something out. All right, so I decided I didn't want to use that other, triple tree clamp off that other bike. So I went ahead and ordered the ignition switch for this one. So I'm going to get this thing installed and try to get some of this wiring figured out. Alright, next thing is I have a very arduous task of reconnecting all these wires, and it's not going to be as simple as just connecting the same wire colors because I have two different bikes. So I have two different wiring diagrams here, and some wires are going to be used, some wires are not going to be used. So this is the overwhelming part, but if you think about it like this, one wire at a time, one circuit at a time, you just break it down in the pieces, so you got the ignition wires, the turn signals, and so on and so on. You got to break these up in groups, and don't let this kind of stuff overwhelm you. It is very overwhelming though. So I'm going to get into this. I'm not going to get a whole lot of this on camera because this part is very boring and I just want to keep the video going. So I'm just going to come in with updates and here and there. I'm not going to make you watch a bunch of this. Alright, made a little bit of progress. I got the ignition wired up. I got the kill switch, the start button, I've got the clutch safety switch, but I got it bypassed because I need another hand to pull the choke because I haven't done the choke cable yet. I got the neutral light, the low pressure light, and the tachometer. Now, if you guys saw in previous episodes when I took this tank apart and did the electrolysis to get the rust out of it, then you've seen how rusted the fuel gauge was inside the tank. Now, I'm really amazed here, but I just want to show you, that's the fuel gauge right there. I'm going to pick the tank up, I'm going to flip it upside down so that the float will go up. Watch the fuel gauge. I am very impressed and surprised that that works. Alright, I got kind of burnt out on wiring, so I started working on the brakes. I got the brakes bled out, but this one caliper over here is giving me some fits. So I'm going to move on. What I want to do now is I'm going to start maybe jetting these carburetors because tomorrow is supposed to be nice. And if possible, I'd like to take this thing down the road. So let's get into these carburetors. Probably not going to video much of this. I'm just going to come back with updates. Oh, my snap ring pliers won't reach down in there. So, in order to get more fuel into this engine, what I'm doing here is these slide needles are not adjustable. They have a clip on them, but there's no other positions. There's only just the one position. So other than buying new slide needles, what I'm doing is I'm taking this plastic spacer off the top and I'm putting it on the bottom, and this is going to shim this up a lot. So this is just where I'm starting at. I'm just guessing at this, so I'm going to try this and see if it runs any better after this. I'm just going to take my little bottle of gas here and put it down the fuel line, fill it with them carb bowls, fire it up, see what happens. Have to let it warm up for a little while first. Turn these pilot screws out a little bit, maybe that'll help. Yeah, let me warm this up and I'll come back. Yeah, it revs out a lot better. I'm going to grab my synchronizer kit and I'm going to synchronize these carbs real quick. Getting close. That sounds like that's good enough to take it for a test ride, and I might have to work on the main jets a little bit, but hey. numbers look good. Idling just above 1,000. Sounds really good. I hardly hear any kind of lifter noise or anything out of the engine. The throttle response is crisp. That's pretty dialed in for the low and mid range. I'm gonna have to pull the carbs and rejet the mains, but I'm gonna do that later after the test ride and everything. I can do that later. Alright, the next thing I want to work on here is the choke cable. This is the choke cable for the Ninja that goes up there like that, but this end of the cable won't work on these carburetors. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to shorten this cable. It goes in this pipe here, curves around and hooks in right here. So I need to cut that nub off the end. I need to shorten the sheath, and I need to put a new nub on this end that'll fit through that tube. Alright, so first things first, I gotta cut this off. So let's get rid of this. Okay, and then I need to pull this cable out the sheath. Shoot, it's a little rusty in there. And I went ahead and marked this. I need to cut this right there. This cable's a little bent up here on the end. I gotta try to straighten this out a little bit. Okay, hopefully I can feed this back through here. I'm gonna have to cut that little boogered end up off of that. I need all the length of this cable I can get though. But I gotta be able to get it back through this cable sheath. Alright, now I need to go test fit this on the bike and see if this is going to be the right length. Alright, now I got this little tool that I made. There's a screw with a pin that runs all the way in here, and a hole, obviously a hole goes through this, and I'm going to back this out, screw out a little bit, and I'm going to heat this up and put some solder in here, and once that gets molten I can dip the end of that cable into that solder and put a new end on it. Alright, here we go. Wish me luck. Super sketchy front tire. No mirrors. No tail lights or turn signals. Even super sketchier rear tire. Well, let's see what happens. it decided it wants to run like crap all of a sudden, so I'm pretty sure I know what the problem is. It lies right in here. This is why I hate ignition points. Alright, for better or worse, here we go. Clutch slipped a little bit. Might have to adjust it out too far. Let's see, where do I start? It run like absolute crap. I need to get a proper ignition system for this. I hate points. I've always had problem with ignition points on motorcycles. Those have to go. So I'll get electronic ignition for this. The biggest problem though is the handling. The handling sucks. So I think it has something to do with the rake, because this bike was a cruiser and I completely changed all of its geometry. So I'm gonna have to do some research and find out what the rake angle is supposed to be, and maybe have to adjust that a little bit, which means a lot of cutting and welding and screwing around. So there is lots of work left to do to this bike. Alright guys, well that's all I got for you this week. If you would like to join me on my struggles, I'll put a link to a playlist of everything on this bike. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and don't be afraid to fix it. Thanks for watching.